there's not one thing that's going to take care of like your whole tech stack. Just kind of figure out what is most important to you, test it out, and then also just understanding that things are also not going to work sometimes, and kind of going through it. If you fail, it's okay. Just figure out what is next, because the indecision is the worst decision, because you're losing time by not failing and then figuring out, okay, this didn't work.
Welcome to Deduct This, powered by ProConnect Tax. This is where tax professionals come together to share ideas, experiences, and fresh perspectives to help you grow your practice and your future. We're glad you're here. Let's get started.
Hi, today we are talking about something that a lot of firms are working through right now, how to build real client advisory practice and not just adding it to your website.
Yes, we're so excited. Our guest today is from Wolf & Company. He runs their outsourced accounting solutions, and he's going to share what it actually takes to deliver CAS at scale, especially for clients with complex multi-entry structures. Please welcome Michael Chapman, CPA.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. So excited to be here.
Thanks for being here. We're so excited.
We are excited. So Michael, we know because we've talked that you've been in the industry about 12 years and you're doing something, or you've been doing something that we are hearing about pervasively throughout the industry, is moving. You happen to be moving from audit over to client advisory services, but we are seeing that more and more and more in the industry. So what made you decide to take that shift?
Yeah, so I started off in audit after college. Was in it for about 3 years over at KPMG. I moved from there to kind of just the industry, doing some accounting, senior level, manager level at a couple different companies. And then I felt a little stuck in terms of like day-to-day challenges, things that would kind of make me be excited to kind of get back into accounting every day. And so I heard about the opportunity at Wolf and CAS in general, and being able to kind of have a client base and different things to do every day. New challenges every day, not just the same old. I mean, we have the bookkeeping, we have the month-end stuff, but in general, things pop up that I never touched before in the accounting world, which is great, and I can just keep kind of expanding my knowledge of accounting and technical accounting. It's been great.
That's awesome. So can you talk about what CAS actually means, like at Wolf & Company, and what services you're delivering beyond just like traditional bookkeeping?
Yeah, so it's very new in general, but what we're trying to deliver is not only the bookkeeping, but that being the kind of foundational support that a lot of companies need, but additionally a lot of controller and up services. So things that are not just month-end and looking back, but forecasting and looking to the future. So helping companies, whether it be CFOs or COOs, just how can we best support them to look to the future and grow their business? And so additionally into that CFO role that we have is something we help companies with, so that we can be their CFO, look to see how we can grow their company, best serve them. In other ways, we help clients get audit ready, whether they feel like they've got an audit coming up and they just need someone to help them make sure processes are in place, memos are kind of together and tight, so that auditors look at it and go, great, we're good. So that's a kind of broad, but a couple of the services we're looking to provide outside of just the normal kind of day-to-day bookkeeping.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like the end-to-end. And we're seeing that more and more, and kind of the deepening of the building of the relationships with people. And, obviously the more conversations and the more deep that relationship can get, you can find out what are the nuances of things that, are highlighted or illuminated, that you could be like, wait a second, there's a there. We could do this if we move the business this way. So I think that's super interesting. And I love seeing this shift that is happening, that it's not just about the numbers and the bookkeeping and then just file the taxes. I think it's so much more well-rounded these days. And I think it's an amazing shift that we're seeing.
Sorry.
No, yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a lot about what you said is relationship building with the clients and acting in their best interest at all times, and finding their pain points and just trying to help them grow and be just be in a good relationship, symbiotic, back and forth, figure out what works best for everybody.
Yeah, I think it's great. So I'm hearing through the grapevine that you are part of the Intuit Enterprise Suite pilot. we're hearing more and more people that are part of this, which I'm really enjoying seeing sort of the move up market and kind of, working with those much larger firms. And so for people who aren't familiar with it, what's the problem that you find that it's solving for your firm that you weren't able to do with just QuickBooks Online?
Yeah, sure. Like the biggest thing was Intercompany. It was just having to toggle between all the different entities that were related, but not connected through QuickBooks. So the IES program really helped us just be able to post those entries and know that they're going to be posted on the other side. It reduced time to be able to have to kind of look at multiple books to make sure that something got posted on the other side. And in general, it kind of helped with how parents look to their subsidiaries with costs and kind of splitting out costs properly. And a lot of that, again, it saves time and it has accuracy in our books, more so than before, where it probably takes a little extra time to make sure everything kind of breaks down correctly and then consolidate it up and eliminate it correctly.
That's amazing. We're hearing such amazing things about the new Enterprise Suite. And so it's exciting to talk to people. And as they've been in it now for a couple of weeks and even some for months, can you talk a little bit about that transition? And you've talked about how intercompany transactions being such a huge pain point. Can you walk through like what it looked like before and then now with Intuit Enterprise Suite, how so much has changed and how much smoother things are?
Yeah, I mean, the transition was, I don't even know if there was a transition. That's how smooth
That's awesome.
it was. Like,
it's amazing.
We didn't feel any kind of pain points there. I don't know if we're a rare case, but as far as I know, there was nothing that we needed to kind of go back and fix or anything that felt off.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I don't have many tips there because it felt so seamless working with our Intuit, like QuickBooks care team and customer team. So just in general, it's been a great experience.
That's amazing. And so before, like, what made you guys even interested in it? You talking about how painful it was. What did it look like before?
What it looked like before was a lot of switching in between entities and then also trying to figure out when vendor bills would go to one of the subsidiary entities, but it's kind of both. It's kind of also like all three entities plus some parents. So a lot of it was spreadsheets in Excel of figuring out, all right, what's the breakdown and percentage that should be kind of this cost goes to the parent versus this cost goes to this sub. So a lot of additional work to just figure out something that is in IES a lot more simple, where I could post it in one spot and then it flows through. So that's the biggest part to us that's helped us cut down on time. And in CAS, it is a lot about trying to find efficiencies, because that bookkeeping is day to day, but if you can get that to be more efficient, it allows you to help your clients, like you said, in CAS that is much higher needs, where it's looking forward, it's helping with growth, it's other things that can go to the wayside when you're dealing with day-to-day things if you're not able to kind of make them efficient.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting. So can you I love that it's been such a seamless transition, right? That's especially with that new technology and things like that. You often hear that people struggle getting from point A to point B. And so I love that it was easy. Probably, obviously, it's from the same makers, right? QuickBooks and moving over there. So
Right.
There's a lot of familiarity in there, which is really nice. Can you walk us through the process of onboarding a new client with a new multi-entity client? Like, how do you set them up from success from day one? Because I think people really love to hear these stories so that they can learn from you of like, what did you do that would help me get from point A to point B faster?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think the biggest thing with anything like this is just kind of sitting down and planning it out first, just to ensure you have the ducks in a row. You're not going into it and forgetting a couple things where then you have to backtrack and fix things that could have been like planned out. So I think the biggest thing is just kind of planning out, okay, map out the entities, map out who the parent is, the subs, how the subs may touch each other, because a lot of times you get to then reconfigure your chart of accounts to make sure that every kind of there's an intercompany GL account for each sub to sub or parent to sub. So I think it's just making sure you set a good foundation of planning of what you want it to look like. And then and then enacting it from there with, again, like I said, a great IES support team that helped us kind of transition right into it. So they know more about the technical side of it, but in terms of like our side of like setting up the accounting and what we want it to look like, that's just planning ahead and then kind of working with your team to just make sure it all kind of flows through. And again, I think there's a great team over there that'll help you with any issues. But again, we didn't find too many issues at all. So hopefully that's everyone's experience. But I know that as long as you kind of plan it out and just have a solid foundation there, you should be good.
That's awesome. I imagine it almost like an org chart, you know what I mean? Where you have like the parent and then you're dropping down, you're like, who talks to who's related to who, right? That's how I sort of envision like the mapping, and then you're like, all right, let's make the books follow this track, right?
Yeah, 100%. And then it's obviously with any kind of new implementation of any kind of tech or anything new, you just want to do some testing afterwards to make sure it all flows how you want it to do. So setting up like fake transactions just to make sure like is this going to be when we've got that transaction come through? Is this what we want to see? So I think that's what we did, and it worked well.
That's great. Well, and in that process, you've mentioned getting different demos from different software companies and figuring out like what was the best fit for you guys. And so what is your advice? Because it can be overwhelming and some people just are like, nope, not this year, right? Like there's a lot of, especially I feel like this year, right? With all the new tech and AI and automation coming into play. I mean, it can be absolutely overwhelming. So what is your advice to firms that are really trying to evaluate their new tech stack and where to go next? And how did you guys decide that Intuit Accountant Suite, that was what you guys were going to go move towards?
Yeah, I think in general, my advice would be to go through the demos. I know sometimes there's a lot of them and you can go through a lot and see a lot, but go through the demos and understand that also that, at least not yet that I found, there's not one thing that's going to take care of like your whole tech stack. Like you're going to have to layer some things, at least for now. Who knows what's coming out in the future, but so just kind of figure out what is most important to you in terms of what one software can do the most for you, and do you want it in that area, or do you want AP to just kind of be its own thing, or payroll? So I think it's figuring out what's most important to you, understanding that there's not one software that you're going to use for everything. Test it out, and then also just understanding that things are also not going to work sometimes, and kind of going through it in terms of if you fail, it's okay. Just figure out what is next, because if you do the whole indecision, like the indecision is the worst decision because you're losing time by not failing and then figuring out, okay, this didn't work. So for us, that's kind of our approach is to take a planned approach, but also if we need to try something, let's try it. And then also with the IES, it's just, it came about because we had a certain customer that just needed this setup, and we were looking, okay, does QuickBooks make sense to have it all separate, or do we need to look outside of QuickBooks? And it was literally as we're doing this looking is when we hear about IES and everything there. So we got to see a demo and test that out, and it was something our client really liked because they didn't have to switch from QuickBooks and they really wanted to stay in QuickBooks. So that was a bonus for both us and the client. Is sometimes those accounting software switches are cumbersome and can take a while. So back to when I said earlier, how smooth that was amazing for both us and the client.
What we're hearing more and more, right, the boom of AI, more and more practices, especially accounting and tax and accounting firms, are taking on AI and technology. And we're finding that it's freeing up a lot of time, right? That's my favorite thing about it. It frees up my time. Then I end up doing more stuff anyway, right? But, I know you're in growth mode, but what are you guys actually doing with that extra time that the technology is taking?
Sure. I think the big part of it is just working on our kind of like workflow improvements and also making sure the automations are working. So part of it is just making sure we have the correct kind of processes in place to leverage the AI and then also trust it at the end of the day. Like we do need to verify. We need to make sure that what we're getting as outputs is correct. So setting up processes and workflows so that we've got to prepare, even if that preparer is AI, we've got to prepare kind of aligned with it to make sure what's coming out is correct. And then we've got a reviewer who can rely on those numbers to then go forward and close the books and present the financials to the client. And again, use that to either then forecast for cash flow, budgeting, all those different things. So it's really, like I said, the up from bookkeeping, the other items that clients are looking for in the CAS world is kind of that advisory and being trusted that we can provide all kind of expertise and advice and make sure that they're understanding their numbers, especially if they're not big numbers people. They need to kind of see the numbers, but have you rely on you to give them context around it and build a story to show them what they mean and what they can mean for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, last question. Someone once told you, we're in busy season, but we're not saving babies every day, and it's okay to take a breath. How has that shaped how you lead your team and kind of the culture you're building there?
Yeah, I think well, our whole Wolf culture has been great for that. Since coming over, I've really enjoyed working at Wolf. I think that's a big part of the culture is just making sure no one's getting burnt out or understanding that, like, yes, we have client work and we've got all this stuff to do. It's busy season. They call it that for a reason. Like, there's plenty of work to do. But at the end of the day, like, let's have perspective on what we're doing, which is just good to take a breath. Yeah, we want to get our work done and make sure it's correct and great for the clients, but to not kind of have that stress boil over into then mistakes happen or you're rushing on something and things like that. So I think it's just a good reminder to, like, take a breath. We'll get it done. Ask for help instead of stressing behind your computer, being like, I can't get this done. Or I think that quote stuck with me back then because it was one of those, like, I felt like I couldn't get above the work and I felt like I was underwater constantly and I didn't know how to kind of prioritize at the time. And so that it really just gave me a second to be like, all right, it's just accounting. Take a breath, prioritize, figure out what you need to do next. It's funny you asked that now is we just had a town hall and our CEO, Jerry Gagney, he said something great at the end, which I thought tied into that was what's most important is what you do next. And in general, just kind of worried about what you do next, not kind of looking at the past to be like, oh no, I messed up here, but that's okay. It's just about what you do to fix it and or go to next instead of just thinking too much on the past, because that's not going to help anything either. Right.
No, it's great advice.
It's well, and Alexia and I have known each other for a long time. I have been saying this quote for years. When people just get so overwhelmed, I'm always like, we're not saving babies. We're not curing cancer. There's always more work to be done, but it doesn't mean you need to work 20 hours a day, because at the end of the day, that hurts you and it hurts everybody around you. And so take a moment, take some time to yourself, make sure you're spending time with your family. Like, the work will be there the next day. And just because you did it faster, then there's still more work. Like, so it doesn't go away. And so I love that you guys have that as sort of foundational. And I think it's imperative when leadership makes statements like that, and then they live what they say. Because if you say that to your team and then you're slacking people or sending people notes at 2:00 in the morning, you're like, well, you said that, but your actions aren't the same. So I think it's, I'm hearing it more and more in the industry, and it's making me happy that people are realizing they don't have to do the 100-hour, weeks and the 120-hour weeks. Cause it's just not good for anybody. And I agree. That's when mistakes get made. So take the time to not do that.
No, absolutely. And technology is playing such a huge part in that, Carrie, like freeing up extra time. And I mean, that's what's so exciting about this industry and like what's happening as technology comes into it. But Michael, thank you so much. It was so amazing to talk to you today and really hear about practical ways that for anyone trying to figure out how to actually scale CAS in a practice without drowning in complexity. And so we're grateful for your time today.
Yes.
No, thank you very much. This was awesome. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk about it all. And this has been great. Thank you.
Amazing. Well, that's it for this episode of Deduct This. Check out our bio where you can find Mike, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for being part of Deduct This, powered by ProConnect Tax. If today's conversation gave you something new to think about, Visit accountants.intuit.com for more insights and resources made for professionals like you. We'll be right here, helping you turn expertise into opportunity.